This is your last warning. If you're looking for motivation, walk away now. What's coming isn't designed to make you feel better. It's built to rebuild you completely. This is not about mindset shifts or inspirational cliches. This is about war. A war inside your mind, against the stories that have broken you, the habits that have numbed you, and the emotional patterns that have quietly sabotaged every step forward. What you're about to engage in is psychological warfare, raw, brutal, and irreversible. It's not a pep talk. It's a protocol, and once you activate this system, there's no going back. The part of you that hesitates, that doubts, that cracks under pressure, it won't survive this. That version dies here, in its place. You'll build something sharper, colder, more precise, not because you want to, because you have to. You don't get to keep your old self and walk away stronger. That's the trade. You evolve or you stay broken. Period. This isn't about healing, it's about dominance. You're not here to survive stress, you're here to weaponize it. If that scares you, leave now. If not, understand this clearly. Everything ahead is designed to rewire your brain for one purpose, to make you unbreakable. But you'll lose something in the process. You'll lose the comfort of your excuses. You'll lose the story that says you can't. And most of all, you'll lose the right to be ordinary. Because after this, you won't just be changed. You'll be responsible for staying that way. Now decide, turn back or step into the fire. There's a moment, right before you collapse, where everything inside you screams to retreat. Muscles tremble, your chest tightens, and your mind starts to spiral. Most people fall here. They break, emotionally unravel, and surrender to the weight. But what they don't realize is that this exact second, this brutal threshold, holds the switch, the override. And once you find it, nothing will ever be the same again. It's not when things calm down. It's not when the storm passes. The override doesn't activate in comfort. It only reveals itself when your nervous system is pushed to the edge, when the walls are caving in, and your identity starts to fracture. That's where it lives. That's the access point. And only a few ever touch it. When most people reach that edge, they're overwhelmed by emotion. Fear, doubt, shame, regret. But those aren't signals to collapse. They're alarms telling you the override is near. The difference between those who survive and those who ascend? One group flinches, the other rewires. At the edge, your emotions aren't your allies. They're noise. And to rise, you have to silence that noise. You don't argue with the panic. You don't negotiate with fear. You kill the narrative and take control of the system. That's when it happens, in one flash. The panic flips into power. The fear becomes fuel. And the identity that once cracked under pressure begins to harden into something new, something unbreakable. But here's the cost. You don't come back soft. You don't return with the same emotional range. This isn't therapy. It's transformation. And it's violent in its clarity. You'll still feel, but differently, cleaner, sharper. Your emotional landscape becomes stripped of noise and clutter. What remains is signal, directive, purpose. You stop reacting. You start executing. You don't ask, "Why is this happening?" you say. Good, let it come. Because now you don't need stability to be powerful. You've trained for chaos. You've turned the edge into your territory. You operate best where others fall apart. And let's be honest, there's no halfway point. You either cross the line, or you stay on the side that always hesitates, always doubts, always fractures. If you choose to evolve, know this: you'll lose part of yourself. The soft edges, the emotional cushion, the comfortable illusion that you're allowed to break. But in its place, you gain something the world can't touch. Mental steel, precision under fire, absolute clarity when others drown in confusion. The override is real, but it's not given. It's earned, only when the system is at max overload, and you refuse to back down. This is where you begin to shift, not into someone better, but into someone that cannot be broken. Your brain doesn't respond to reality. It responds to the story you've built around it. That's why two people can face the same situation. One breaks, the other sharpens. The difference isn't in the pressure, it's in the narrative. Every experience you've ever had was filtered through a storyline you created in real time. And when stress hits, your default script either turns you into a victim or into a weapon. Here's the brutal truth. Your pain never had power over you. What crushed you was the meaning you assigned to it. That's where the war is won or lost. Not in the event, but in your interpretation of it. Reframing isn't soft. It's not about pretending things are okay. It's about rewriting the code your nervous system obeys under fire. When you say, "This is happening to destroy me," your brain prepares for collapse. But when you say, "This is where I level up," the system shifts. Your heart rate drops. Focus locks in. You don't just endure the pain, you start using it. Here's the tactical move. When chaos hits, pause, don't react, observe, then command. You reframe the moment not to feel better, but to take control. Change the internal headline. Instead of, "I'm losing it," tell yourself, "This pressure is my advantage." And say it with conviction, because your subconscious doesn't listen to suggestions. It obeys orders. Elite performers, special forces operatives, top-tier entrepreneurs. They don't rise because they're fearless. They rise because they've trained their minds to obey reframed narratives when everything's falling apart. They've built a response pattern that converts fear into precision. You can do the same. But you don't wait until calm returns. You reframe right at the breaking point. That's the window. That's the override moment. Because if you control the meaning, you control the outcome. The battlefield isn't out there. It's the narrative running in your mind. Master it, and you dominate everything else. Victory doesn't begin when you step into the arena. It begins in the mind long before the challenge ever arrives. The biggest lie we're sold is that success is born in the moment. But the truth is, elite performance is built through mental rehearsal, practiced in silence, and locked in through relentless inner repetition. You don't hope to win. You install the outcome. You run the scenario in your head until it's no longer an if. It's an inevitability. World-class athletes, combat veterans, CEOs, they don't just visualize. They conquer the field before they even step on it. Their nervous system has already been there. Their body already knows the response. When chaos comes, they're not surprised. They've lived it 1,000 times before. This isn't imagination. It's neurological conditioning. Your brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined reality and lived experience. That's why preemptive visualization isn't fluff. It's firepower. You embed your identity into a scene of victory so many times that when it finally arrives, you don't flinch. You execute. The technique is surgical. You don't just see yourself winning. You feel the weight of the room, the pulse in your neck, the sound of pressure. You simulate the worst-case stress and visualize your calm dominance, your tone, your posture, your power. You pre-play the challenge until you no longer question your reaction. It becomes instinct. The goal isn't to feel confident. The goal is to make winning feel familiar. Because when the moment comes, hesitation kills. You don't have time to find yourself. You need to already be there, locked in, decisive, unshakable. Preemptive conquest means you dominate time itself. You collapse the distance between who you are now and who you must be under fire. You don't train to rise. You train so you never fall. Don't wait for the storm to find your strength. Install it now. Code it into your neural pathways. Because when the world hits hard, your mind won't ask what to do. It'll already know. Most people think power is loud. They think dominance is expressed through volume, speed, or aggression. But the most dangerous force in any high-stakes moment isn't noise. It's silence. Controlled, deliberate, weaponized silence. You want to break someone's rhythm. Say nothing. You want to shift the power in a negotiation, an argument, or even a confrontation. Withdraw your reaction. Because silence does what words can't. It unsettles. It forces the other person to sit with their own energy, while you hold your ground without saying a word. Every second you delay a reaction, you're not just holding your emotions, you're building leverage. Emotional reactivity is weakness disguised as honesty. Strategic silence is command. It's the ability to take the hit, absorb the chaos, and respond only when it serves your purpose. The world will test you. It will provoke you, insult you, interrupt you, try to bait you into impulsive responses. Most people fall for it every time. They lash out, defend, explain, argue, handing over their power piece by piece. But not you. Not anymore. Here's the drill. When pressure spikes, pause, no words, no expression, no explanation, just silence. Count to 30 in your head if you must. Let the surge rise. Let the old version of you beg to react. Then let it collapse without action. That's where you win. Not by overpowering the situation, but by refusing to give it what it expects. Elite operators use this constantly. Hostage negotiators, poker champions, black ops teams. Their silence isn't absence. It's assertion. It communicates. You don't get to pull me out of position. Because the moment you speak without control, you surrender strategic ground, but in silence. You reclaim it. This isn't about suppression. It's about precision. You're not avoiding conflict, you're controlling its terms. And the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. You start responding not with emotion, but with outcome. You pause, observe, and choose the move that shifts the entire game. Start now, for the next 24 hours. When emotion spikes, go silent. Just observe. You'll feel the power shift. Not outside, but inside. That's how control is built. Not in the moment you speak, but in the moment you choose not to. Forget everything you've been told about affirmations. This isn't about whispering feel-good phrases to yourself in the mirror. This is war, and in war, words aren't comfort, they're commands. When you're at your edge, when exhaustion sets in, when fear claws at your throat, when quitting looks like the only option, you don't need inspiration. You need a trigger, a mental bullet you can fire that cuts through the noise and resets your system. That's what a ruthless affirmation is. It's not poetic. It's primal. It's short, sharp, and undeniable. A phrase that drills directly into your nervous system and tells your body what to do when your mind wants to fold. You don't say it when things are easy. You embed it when things are hard. You link it to the exact moment your system usually caves. When your hands shake, when your chest tightens, when your thoughts scatter. That's when you pull the trigger. And that phrase becomes your override. I don't quit. I walk through fire. Make me stronger. Whatever it is, it must be yours. Yours alone, authentic, intense, and surgical. Because the truth is, your nervous system doesn't respond to logic under stress. It obeys what's been trained. If you've rehearsed panic, it will default to collapse. But if you've wired in a command, one that hits like a jolt of clarity, you buy yourself those extra seconds. And in those seconds, you take control back. This isn't a mantra. It's not meant to soothe. It's meant to take your brain by the throat and say, "We don't break here." Write your phrase, memorize it, own it, because the next time pressure hits, it won't just be your willpower on the line. It'll be the code you've embedded. And if you've embedded it right, that code will respond before your fear even has time to speak. Every emotional impulse feels like truth in the moment. Anger feels righteous. Fear feels protective. Doubt feels intelligent. But the most dangerous choices you'll ever make almost always come from those first surges of emotion. The instant reactions that bypass logic and hijack your power. You don't sabotage your life with carefully thought-out decisions. You sabotage it in seconds, sending that rage-filled text, quitting too soon, snapping back when silence would have won. And afterward, regret moves in. But by then, it's too late. Here's the solution, the 24-hour rule. When a powerful emotional impulse rises, don't act, not yet. Pause, document it, Write it down, observe it, study it. But take no action until you've given your system time to stabilize. Delaying your reaction doesn't weaken you. It refines you. It separates instinct from intelligence. And more importantly, it keeps your power in your hands, not spilled out across words you can't take back. This isn't suppression. You're not denying how you feel. You're upgrading how you respond. You're not reacting to the world anymore, you're choosing how to shape it. Every time you delay action during an emotional spike, you rewire your nervous system. You teach it that not every surge is a command. You build the muscle of mental restraint. And that restraint is what gives elite operators, top athletes, and unshakable leaders their edge. Because when you master delay, you become unpredictable, strategic, dangerous, in the best way. Let the emotion rise, let it scream. But you decide when, how, and if it moves, not the other way around. When chaos erupts, most people collapse under the weight of it. Not because they're weak, but because they're unarmed. They've trained their bodies, their routines, maybe even their goals, but they've never trained their nervous system for war. Elite performers operate differently. They're not just physically prepared, they're neurologically armed. This isn't about staying calm. It's about triggering specific neural weapons on command. Here are the 5 that matter when hesitation is death and emotion is the enemy. Quantum observation. When stress hits, the brain wants to escalate. Thought feeds emotion. Emotion fuels thought. And within seconds, your nervous system spirals. But there's a hidden override button, conscious observation, like in quantum physics, where particles behave differently under observation. Your emotions lose momentum the second you observe them without judgment. You don't react. You freeze the moment. You scan it, you track it, and in doing so, you kill its ability to mutate. Fear stops growing. Anger loses its claws. You shift from drowning an emotion to studying it like a sniper. Cold, precise, detached. Dopamine reset. Modern life is saturated with dopamine junk. Notifications, likes, sugar, instant gratification. Each hit dulls your edge. Each one trains your brain to crave the easy high instead of building mental clarity. Elite minds reset this. 24 hours, no hits, no stimulation, no empty rewards. Just silence, stillness, recalibration. This isn't deprivation, it's sharpening. When the dopamine noise dies down, your mind becomes a weapon again. Focus returns. Depth sharpens. You stop chasing. You start commanding. Alpha entrainment. There's a frequency your brain hits when it's in the zone. Calm but alert. Present but powerful. That's the alpha state. Champions don't wait for it. They build it. Through breathing drills, audio entrainment, and ritualized focus, they shift their brainwaves at will. Under pressure, they don't tense. They drop into alpha. Stress chemicals lower, precision increases. Flow state activates on command. This isn't luck. It's neurological engineering. And it can be trained. Temporal reframing. The brain doesn't know the difference between a memory and a future visualized with enough intensity. That's why elite surgeons, athletes, and operators mentally walk through success before the moment ever arrives. You don't wait for the unknown to hit you. You erase the unknown before it shows up. You embed the win neurologically. So, when the real moment comes, your system isn't asking questions. It's repeating a script it already knows. Hemispheric switching under extreme stress. Your brain defaults to the right hemisphere, emotion, chaos, reaction. That's where panic lives. But the left hemisphere is where tactics live. Logic, planning, control. Elite minds switch on command. Simple math, tactical recall, language-based thinking. These are tools to force your mind back into structure when emotion tries to hijack the system. One calculated shift in activity, done in real time, and the storm loses its grip. These 5 tools aren't optional. They're required. If you want to lead under fire, execute under pressure, and make decisions when others freeze. This is your arsenal. Train them, drill them, own them, because the next time everything goes sideways, the world won't wait for you to get centered. It will demand you already are. You can train your body. You can sharpen your skills. But if your subconscious identity is wired for failure, sabotage, or limitation, none of it will hold under pressure. The scripts that run your life aren't the ones you speak out loud. They're the ones buried deep inside, installed years ago, often without your permission. Mike Tyson, a fighter unmatched in raw power, instinct, and skill. Yet at the height of his dominance, he began to implode. Not because he lacked discipline, but because buried beneath the surface was a belief system formed in trauma, a script telling him he wasn't worthy. That destruction was inevitable. No amount of talent could override that subconscious virus until it was confronted. This is where your real work begins, not just in performance, but in identity. Because under stress, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your programming. Step 1 is awareness. Track your patterns. Where do you always fall short? What do you sabotage just before it succeeds? What kind of relationships or opportunities do you keep pushing away? These aren't coincidences. They're proof of an inner story on repeat. Step 2 is reprogramming. Not by positive thinking, but by intense visualization, ritual, and repetition. You don't just say new beliefs, you see them, feel them, burn them into your neural pathways. You overwrite the script the same way it was installed. Emotionally, repetitively, viscerally. I am dangerous under pressure. I am wired for clarity. I am not who I was. I am who I decide to become. Say it, picture it, install it. Because until your identity changes, every breakthrough will collapse back into the shape of your old self. But once it's rewritten, nothing can pull you back. You've been taught that your power ends at your words or your actions. But the truth is deeper. Your energy speaks long before you do. The field around you, built by your thoughts, emotions, and focus, carries weight. And that weight shifts the room. People feel it when you walk in. The subtle tension, the calm command, the pull toward your presence. That's not charisma. That's energetic dominance, and it's real. Science backs it. Coherence between the heart and the brain creates a measurable field, a frequency. And when that field is in alignment, it doesn't just affect your physiology, it affects others, their emotions, their reactions, even their decisions. This isn't mysticism, it's training. Just like you shape your thoughts, you shape your field through breathwork, stillness, intention, and clarity. You broadcast a signal of calm authority or strategic aggression. You stop reacting to energy and start projecting it. Elite warriors throughout history understood this. Samurai didn't rely on just swordplay. They mastered ki, a presence so sharp that enemies would hesitate before the first move. Negotiators, leaders, spiritual masters, they all used energy, not just logic, to control the space. So now ask yourself, what energy are you putting out when you speak? When you enter a room, when nothing is said, but everything is felt? Train it, sharpen it, align your emotions and focus into a single coherent state. Because when your energy is precise, so is your influence. Don't just lead the conversation, own the atmosphere. There's a hidden cost to becoming unstoppable. The stronger you grow, the more danger you face, not from the outside, but from within. When your mind becomes razor sharp, your emotions can dull. When nothing breaks you, you may stop letting anything touch you. That's the dark side of mental dominance. You start to win more, but feel less. You become effective, but isolated. And without realizing it, your armor becomes your prison. You no longer flinch, but you no longer laugh either. You stop falling apart, but you also stop connecting. The very traits that made you indestructible begin to erase your humanity. This is the danger most never speak about. The elite don't just fight the world, they fight not to become machines, because emotional numbness might protect you from pain, but it also cuts you off from love, joy, depth. And without those, power means nothing. The answer isn't to stay soft. It's to stay open, to integrate your fire with your humanity, to lead with precision and empathy, to feel without losing control. Mastering your mind doesn't mean silencing your heart. It means letting both operate at full strength. Because the real power isn't in becoming invulnerable. It's in staying deeply human while remaining absolutely unbreakable. Mastery is never finished. The day you stop evolving is the day your edge begins to dull. Look at the greatest, Mandela, who balanced strength with forgiveness, Jordan, who reinvented his game with every season, Tibetan monks, who spend decades sharpening not only focus, but compassion. They all understood one thing: evolution is a duty. Each day is a battlefield, not with the world, but with who you were yesterday. The goal isn't to maintain your power, it's to multiply it. You ask yourself relentlessly, where's my next level? Not just in performance, but in clarity, in discipline, in emotional depth. You don't wait for breakdowns to rebuild. You challenge your system preemptively. You expand your neural pathways, stretch your emotional capacity, and redefine what's possible. You don't let your identity fossilize. You upgrade it, on command. Because mental dominance isn't a peak you reach. It's a platform you keep elevating. Every challenge, every failure, every conflict becomes raw material for the next upgrade. There is no final form, only the next version. You become addicted, not to winning, but to evolving. You stop seeking comfort and start craving challenge. You train your brain to respond to discomfort as a signal to grow, not retreat. This is the new game. Not survival, not success, but expansion. And if you're brave enough to ask that question every day, what's my next edge? You'll stay sharp long after others have settled. And that's when you become untouchable. Not because you're finished, but because you never are. You've crossed the threshold. You've seen what most never will. And now you have a choice: revert or rise. Because after everything you've read, everything you've unlocked, going back is no longer an option. Your old identity, the one built on hesitation, self-doubt, and emotional chaos, has no place in this new version of you. From this moment forward, you don't get to be ordinary again. You don't get to shrink just because the world gets loud. You've tasted what it's like to be clear, to be powerful, to be unfazed by pressure. And that power comes with a responsibility to stay awake, stay sharp, and never let your edge go dull. So make the choice. Live the identity you've constructed, not once in a while, but every damn day. Burn the fallback plan. Silence the old scripts. Stand in the fire and say, this is who I am now. There's no return, only rise.